With soul retrieval, in particular, it's gathering split off parts of yourself or frayed segments of yourself in order to bring wholeness, balance, fullness back to your soul in this journey.
Hello, and welcome to the Constance Messmer podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Have you ever heard of the phrase soul retrieval? Well, in my work and in my world, soul retrieval is about going to places and back to the experiences where you've left parts of your soul self behind. Sometimes we leave things behind because of a traumatic experience that we end up disassociating from. And so this energy kind of remains locked in our past. There are other times when we have enormously powerful experiences, and those too might get kind of stuck in our past blueprint of lifetimes. And so in this episode, I want to talk to you and give you some examples from my own personal file of soul retrieval experiences that have occurred in my life, but also how I have coached others along in theirs. It's all about reconciliation and personal empowerment and being more thoroughly connected and grounded in your own soul. I hope you garner a lot from our time together. There are moments in our life where we have opportunity to take giant leaps in our soul's journey. And I think when soul retrieval is honored, we can make those great strides. I think that in my experience, you might recognize that there are places on the planet that you long to go to, that you just have on your bucket list. Like, I really want to go there before I leave in this lifetime. Or conversely, there might be places that you have no desire to go to. You might want to pay attention to those because there's something magical that can happen in each of those scenarios. I've always wanted to go to Morocco, and I've always wanted to go to Egypt ever since I was quite young and heard about these places on the planet. It was a real longing. And I was blessed and lucky enough to visit Egypt several times, actually countless. I think I've been there 5 times. And each time I go, what I experience is often a soul retrieval. Emotions come up, feelings come up, surrendering has to occur. There's a real kindredship that occurs between not only to the sacred sites of Egypt's past in particular, but also to the people and the culture. And it just feels like I know it in my bones. I have always loved returning to Egypt. And I long to go to Morocco. And as it turns out, I will be going to Morocco soon. I have no clue what I will discover there. The interesting thing, and I've told you before, is that when I did my 23andMe and Ancestry blood work, I discovered that I had blood in my veins from this area of the world, which came as no surprise. I have always, though, had an aversion to a few sites on the planet. Mount Vesuvius creeps me out. I'm sure I died there when the volcano erupted. I hear glorious things about Hawaii, but I'm nervous to go there for the same reason, the volcanoes. I am curious about Maya ruins because I have always had this kind of, I don't even know how I feel about this, but I feel something and I'm not sure what it is. These are the areas that have me kind of pondering. And so, interestingly enough, I have always kept those areas on the back burner. And I have to admit to you, because there's a slight aversion, I'm like, you gotta go. You gotta go. Something happened there in another incarnation, and you left a bit of your soul behind. You kind of split away from the experience, and you've got to go reconcile maybe reconcile some karma and collect yourself there in these places. So I was really excited to get together with my female family members and tell them that I wanted to go on a birthday trip when I turned 60 next year. And I decided to do a cruise that has a stop in Cozumel, Mexico. And once I solidified that's where we were going, I started to look at the onshore excursions and could not believe my eyes that those Maya ruins that kind of haunt me in a weird way are actually there. I know for certain in my heart, and also from my own past life regression, at least 2 lifetimes as a Mayan. One was as a male of a lot of power, and I don't think I used my power well. I think I was manipulative with my power. The other one I know was that I know I was a female that was like thrown into a volcano or something, sacrificed, I knew this. So, as a virgin sacrifice, I really need to call this trip what it is. It's a real soul retrieval trip, this birthday trip. I think it's significant that we're in Mexico exactly on the date of my birth. So mindlessly, I was compelled to scroll into some research reading about these ruins. And there's one that is less glamorous. There's a few sites there that I could choose to visit on my birthday. Gervasio, I think it is. Anyway, as I scrolled, I was not surprised to find this is where the Mayans gathered to worship the goddess Ixchel. Forgive my pronunciation if it's wrong. I always seem to be drawn to the goddess energy sites. I've always been drawn to them. So here I am noticing that I'm going to probably go collect myself from prior incarnations. And I thought, well, at least I wasn't a sacrificed virgin. And I was compelled and instructed by my guides and angels to like really scroll through some greater research on this particular site. And I had to laugh because as I heard these noises in my head, scroll down further in regards to ruins, I came across the fact that this Spanish conqueror told of a place where unmarried young women were sacrificed to the goddess in whom they had much faith and hope. And they were thinking that possibly this was at the site of goddess Ixchel. And I had to laugh in that moment, like, oh crap. I was probably a sacrificed virgin. But then Spirit whispered to me, not all sacrifices are the kind of sacrifice that we know of. Some are where lives are sacrificed, not as an ending to life, but as temple women, like chosen cloistered nuns or whatnot, consecrating their lives, their sexuality, their entire body, mind, and spirit to a life of service. And they take vows to do that. So I am wondering, and I am knowing in my heart that I probably took some vows there that are still pretty solid in the energy blueprint of my soul. And I want to go back and recant those vows so that I can take my life back. And instead of being a life of service very quietly and very pointed to people that come to the sacred site of my space that I work out of, I know that I'm meant to create new vows to dedicate my work as a life of service on a broader scale. I think this is really fascinating as several things line up in my career path over the next 12 months to allow that to happen. But I feel like going to these Maya ruins are a pivotal part of the journey in this way. Her name is actually pronounced Ixchel. God, I've always been drawn to the moon. This stuff, like, you can't make this stuff up, right? This is like when you see the links, like it's like this whole line of breadcrumbs to go. I just want to lead you down this path to who you are. And this stuff just makes me laugh and laugh. Spirit makes me laugh all the time. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm just curious what I'll find at this site. And they said, you're going to have to dig deep when you go. So it might not be like a visceral reaction at her site. It might just be really a quiet kind of a nudging at my soul. Go stand in this corner, let a story unfold, just see how it goes. You're just going to step away feeling refreshed or grounded in your feminine power or whatever it is. And I think it's interesting that people would turn to her for fertility. And I am not born children in this life I chose to adopt, which is so fascinating, all of it. Hey, I want to tell you about my book, Some Dogs Talk. It teaches animal communication among the pages of paranormal, non-creepy fiction. But the stories of animal communication are actually based on a lot of personal experiences that I went through. It is designed to help the reader navigate their own experiences of all the different ways that we can communicate, just with animals and our furry friends, but with others. I think you'll enjoy it. Get your copy today. As I've said, I've done several trips to Egypt. And on one of those trips, I went with a group of people that were very spiritual, like myself, working with their psychic nature to honor what they knew and understood about the world and the dynamic world and experience they were having on the planet. And so we had great conversations. Can't remember how many people were on these trips, but when you're called to go to a place, you know in your heart you're called. And I was called to Egypt yet again to be with this particular group. I recall we were at Karnak, a group of us. I think we went as a little group of women that kind of split off to walk around. But there was a woman, an older woman with her middle school son that was part of our group. And we were walking around just kind of tuning in. And I just remember maybe there were like 5 of us around her at the time. And I noticed that she was really getting a little woozy and out of body, because I was watching and looking. And she began to touch the hieroglyphics on the walls. And she started to turn white. And she collapsed and slid down the wall. And in the process of doing so, she also lost control of herself and wet herself. We were all, of course, rushed to her side, right? But also were sad for her son who was witnessing this. So a few women went to the son and said, it's okay, this is going to be okay. The rest of us knew, like, oh, she is having some soul retrieval, karmic awareness. She is having some real collection of self. When she hit the ground, I noticed she had stopped breathing. And so people were like, breathe, breathe. But I divinely guided, I'm sure it was a cognizance. I just knew what to do. I went and put my mouth by her ear and I breathed in and out, and very exaggerated breath so that she could hear it in the depths of her soul, wherever she had gone to, subconsciously. And as I breathed in and out, the more I did it and the more exaggerated, she started matching my breath and started breathing again. When she finally came to, we, really consoled her that this was part of many people's typical experiences when they're having these out-of-body experiences and soul collective moments. So someone took their scarf, their wrap, and wrapped it around her midsection to give her a little more modesty and privacy in what had occurred. And we ushered her back to the bus and then went on and brought her back to the hotel room where we could tend to her, while others also took care of her son to speak to him and calm him down and tell him not to worry, that his mother was going to be fine. I remember we asked if she wanted us to help bathe her. It was a beautiful experience because it felt like a bunch of priestesses in Egypt, right? Tending to the women folk and each other as we did back in the day. I mean, I had images flying back to me of doing it with these very women that I was traveling with. It's pretty powerful for me. And while we were helping her bathe, just talking and putting the washcloth and squeezing the washcloth and drawing the warm water and everything, we helped her kind of recall memories that came to her before she collapsed. And I'm not going to share those with you because those were personal to her. And even though you don't even know her name, I'm not going to. But it was one of those moments that by the time the bath was over, she wrapped up in towels, looked like 10 years younger. It had taken so much kind of heavy energy off of her. I will say that it was work reconciling a relationship that she had in this lifetime that was tied to that lifetime. And so it was powerful. It was powerful for all of us to witness, all of us to kind of help, doula her soul together, bring her into this world as a new being, if you will, as a new form of her old self, if you will. It was an experience that I'll never forget, and I'm really grateful to have been a part of it. One of the most moving parts for me to be in that cluster of women that came to the Ladies' Aid was that I got to witness the lovely Daisy Foss, Daisy Foss, who is a lovely healer in England. She was so compassionate to the woman. I actually think it was her that put her wrap around this woman's midsection to drape her and, just to restore her sense of dignity. And so just a little shout out to Daisy Foss and her fine work. You can find her online. I think of all the places that I've been, Glastonbury, Egypt, Machu Picchu, sacred sites. And I know that in those moments before going, I was really called there. And I know that I've been, sometimes I'm like, put it on a credit card. I'm going. I know I'm supposed to go. And then the money comes back. It's just sometimes that stuff happens. And I've never regretted it because when I'm in these places that I'm called to, I really notice if I get, feel ill or, feel out of body. These are the telltale sign that something's coming up. Sometimes people think it's the food you eat. I remember when I was in Peru, my roommate was Sissy. I'm going to say her first name. Sissy was like really sick. And I was like, honey, this is past life stuff coming up. You want some help? She's like, no, she didn't believe it. So she just like, it must have been something I ate. Well, sometimes it is something you ate, but sometimes it really is past life stuff, right? It's really like, let's see, do you have to forgive someone? Do you have to kind of reconcile some of your own past mistakes that you've made in this place and the land's calling you back to, kind of fulfill those promises or whatnot. It's just been really remarkable throughout the years how I've noticed when I'm called to places, even in the states where I live. Arizona calls me, the desert calls me. There's some places in the states that I haven't gone to that I want to go to. The redwood forest calls me. I'm sure I was a tree in another life. I want to go visit my friends. So, do you have to go in the physical? No, not really. Not really. You can do a meditation, visualization to return to any of these places and kind of uncover the story. I know that you can totally unlock the secrets of your soul from your chair or your bed at home. I know this. I've had this happen to myself, right? What comes up in those meditation times of intention when you want to just ask, like, what lifetime do I need to look at? Or I have a longing or an aversion to a certain site on the planet, and go there in your mind and say, guide me, spirit, guide me. And notice the story threads that come up and how they might be linked to this lifetime, whether as strengths or weaknesses or disgruntled energy. And it's really important to give these experiences this soul time for your own soul retrieval. Even if you just choose to do it in meditation, it is incredibly powerful and healing. So, how would I suggest you do it from home? If you, for whatever reason, don't want to travel or can't travel to the place on the planet, I would suggest that you either imagine going to the Akashic Records, the library that has and contains the book of prior incarnations, your prior incarnations, and randomly say, I'm going to open up to whatever page still needs reconciling, and open up the page and look to see what country you were in, or who you were and what you were in that lifetime. I would otherwise also say that you could definitely think of, like, all right, where have I never wanted to go on the planet? And where do I really, really, really want to visit before I die? And notice the feelings that are evoked by all of those places, each of those places, right? And work with those feelings. Like, what's this about? Really turn it over. Just go on a thought exercise, right? These are my desires. These are my longings. These are my aversions. And see what story you access, right? See what story you access. How do you recognize the need for a soul retrieval when you're in a foreign country, or even if you're away from home and not far from home, and you're walking in the woods or walking into an old space, and you're like, God, I think this seems familiar. I would pay attention, with using all your soul awareness, to what you're getting as impressions from the space. So for me, remember how I told you when I walked into the Glastonbury Abbey in Glastonbury, England, and how I really felt nauseous. I stepped through the archway and felt nauseous, stepped backwards outside, felt nothing. My stomach cleared. So I knew it was something, a past, a karmic tie, or from my past, right? So it's in these experiences where recognizing and paying attention to any subtle sensations on your body, or any quiet thoughts that might come up, or loud thoughts even. So it's clairsensation, it's clairaudience. It's also, if you see things, clairvoyance. Like, some things might be impressed in your mind's eye that you see in the space. Sometimes I actually look in the space psychically. Like, sometimes I'm very, very present. Like, let me go through this old house. And then other times I'm like, ooh, let me look in this old house, or whatnot, or in this kind of this ruin, or this old castle. I did that when I was 16. I had the opportunity to go with my whole family to Ireland. And when we went into some castles that were lying in decay, I was really psychically looking then to see, what was it like before now? What was it like in its full glory? And, let your imagination run wild in those moments. But when you're noticing that you're having a visceral reaction, take the time to, me, take the time to sit down or lean against a wall if you need to, and close your eyes and put your hands on your heart and ask, was I here? What's coming up for me? What's the feeling? Because sometimes it's you're clearing a space because you're an empath, because you're walking into other people's, leftover energy garb. But if it's you, did I live here before? Was I a man or a woman? How old was I when I passed? What was my life like? Did I leave anything behind? What were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? Do I have any unfinished business? Do I need to retrieve a part of my soul? These kind of things. I think in my upcoming episode, or somewhere, I will create a meditation to walk you through that. I think that will be nice. But for now, I just want you to know that, in my experience, soul retrieval is powerful, and you can do it physically, like in person, or you can do it as a meditation visualization. I do it all the time with my clients when I do heart-light healings or healing sessions where I regress them to other lifetimes, past life regression. But with soul retrieval, in particular, it's gathering split off parts of yourself, or frayed segments of yourself, in order to bring wholeness, balance, fullness back to your soul in this journey. Well, my friend, I hope you've learned some things, or validated some things that you've already known and experienced in your life. And maybe you're even pondering some other trips where you had adverse ill reactions to certain places or whatnot. or when you left certain places and felt incredibly invigorated or life-changing experiences due to certain travel moments. I hope you reconsider what might have been actually a soul retrieval. Hey, Constance Messmer here. I just want to do a shout out of big thanks to all the members. I am so grateful. And all the people dropping in and giving little donations here and there and super thanks and all that stuff. I really appreciate you. You members and you people contributing and subscribers are what helped me bring this content to everyone, really. They both contribute to the cost of production, and I am definitely grateful for that. This stuff is not cheap to put out. Oh my God. Oh my God. So every little bit helps, and I am filled with gratitude that you're stepping up. I am not necessarily a joiner, not usually, but there are environmental issues in other organizations that I do belong to and I contribute to because I like to see them persevere. And I'm hoping you feel the same about this work. I hope you put it into practice in your life. That's another way that you could spread this work and help change our world, which is what I think it ultimately does. As you know, I think if everyone tuned into their soul senses, the world would be a much better place. So when you subscribe, it's a big yes vote for the content, and it helps spread the work across the planet. So when you put the lessons into practice and subscribe and like and share, you help me help you carry the lesson beyond you and me. And I am just really grateful. This podcast is presented solely for educational, spiritual, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for medical diagnosis, treatment, or the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat a health problem or condition. Always check with your doctor. Thank you.